quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles, ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens.
All right, let's try this thing again. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. The Wicked Wednesday has begun. I've done literally thousands of shows before. Strange things happen sometimes, but that was a strange one. Just as we started, evidently there was no audio or anything like that, but everything was fine, and we didn't change anything, but we're good to go here right now. But when you do thousands of shows, thousands of weird things are eventually going to happen to you. So let's roll. Let's do this thing. This is SportsRage. We got a full house tonight. A ton of stuff happened. Anything happened today? It's like one thing after another, like every 20 minutes. And like there's these other stories that suddenly aren't as big anymore after. But obviously Pete Carroll is out in Seattle. We didn't see that one coming. And Nick Saban drops a bombshell. Nick Saban retires. That one, like the Nick Saban one got me. In which, like, I actually had to do a double take, like triple take, and is this real or is this one of these stupid, like everything is fake, everybody is stupid now, so you can't really believe anything. I was like, really? Nick Saban? But it's true. It's true. Nick Saban, 17 years at Alabama, 6 championships, won 7 championships, won a championship with LSU as well. But Nick Saban moving on. And, pretty crazy. By chance, we can say that we were at Nick Saban's last ever game. One of the greatest coaches, maybe the best college football coach ever of all time, that we were there. And I was thinking, too, it's like, wow, imagine if Harbaugh goes to the NFL. Both coaches from the Rose Bowl will be gone. So, man, a lot of stuff to unpack. And we got a lot of guests on the program. Now you get to Pete Carroll. The Pete Carroll situation. Pete Carroll has another year left on his contract, right? And I think it's like $14 million, $15 million in that range type of deal. He's owed a lot of money. So that's why this special advisor tag was sort of attached to it. It was basically like, listen, we owe you $15 million. You're not going to be the coach next year, but if you want to keep your office and hang around, we're not telling you to leave or anything. You're just not going to be the coach, right? It was one of those deals. And he was asked during a press conference today, what does special advisor mean? And he goes, nothing. He goes, that was just a term. And it was almost like he said, he goes, I don't know. He goes, they were just going to try to find somewhere for me here, like for something for me to do, which he's not going to do, and they're going to have to pay him anyways. So Pete Carroll's going to get paid on the way out here. 72 years old, Pete Carroll, but he's got more energy than we do. I tell you that. Like Pete Carroll, he's not really 72-ish. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think, like, he's not out of touch with football. He's not out of touch with the players. Pete Carroll is sort of a freak that he's probably like 20 years younger than he actually is, you know? I mean, you see the guys doing sprints with the team and stuff like that. But so he insinuated he wanted to keep on coaching. And I tell you what, there's 1,000,001 coaching vacancies right now. Brady Cannon is a candidate for the Vegas Raider job. Like there's so many jobs available right now. NFL teams are coming to the grid for our talent, as there's that many head coaching spots available right now. I'm going to submit my resume. I'm going to submit my resume to various NFL teams as well. But man, it's getting crazy out there. Like, what is it, 7 now? I think it's up to 7 off the top of my head. There's like 7 NFL vacancies, and big-time dudes just sort of got thrown under the bus at the same time, which makes you feel probably next. Like, if there was ever a time to do it, like, oh, I'm just saying, if there was ever a time, if you're Kraft and you don't want Belichick back, it's now. Nick Saban just retired. Pete Carroll just got pushed out the door. Mike Vrabel got thrown under the bus. Just, throw another body on the pile type of deal here with Bill Belichick. Man, it's been a bloodbath out there. We got games to be played, though. NFL playoff games. We got NBA basketball tonight. We'll track this. Hell of a lot of stuff going on. Who's going to be the next coach of Alabama? Brent Beard will join us tomorrow on the program. There's a lot of talk about Dan Lanning. Remember in college, guys, there's zero loyalty and stuff. These dudes, it's like basically like Love Island or something. Like they'll break up with each other and split in a heartbeat. There's all buyout clauses and stuff. Word is Alabama really wants Dan Lanning. They think Dan Lanning's the guy. And they're going to try to just steal him from the Ducks. I think it's probably going to happen. I keep my eye on Mike Norvell, Florida State. He just ran the table, didn't make the playoffs. He's not going to stay at Florida State. A lot of stuff to break down. Let's do this thing. This is SportsRage.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. Can you hear me now? Now. Let's roll. Earlier tonight, I lost a hockey game in a shootout, but I had the Canadians plus a puck and a half, but I sprinkled on the money line as well. But I have these NBA games, and I have a couple of overs tonight, and like Boston and Minnesota, and I'm thinking the only way this game's going to go over if it goes to overtime. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you never get like these breaks to game to go to overtime. Finally, we get a break. The game goes to overtime. And I took an in-game over in Atlanta and Philadelphia. And it wasn't going to get there unless it went to overtime. And I'm 2 for 2 now. I went to overtime in this game. So I was just thinking, how come I don't ever have any overtime luck? And boom, Lord Gambler just gave me 2 overtime wins in a row after the shootout loss in the National Hockey League. The Nuggets and the Jazz are coming up. I have a hard time really caring. I don't know, like about, this game pulling the trigger in a big way, monetarily wise. There's some college basketball I'm intrigued by. I am on TCU on the money line. I took them when they were down by a couple of points earlier, but a ton of stuff going on. Brady's only with us for a couple of segments. The Reggie Cam Stewart in the house. We got the Sony Open and, of course, the NFL playoffs. Good to see you, Brady. Cam, how you doing, Brady? Good to see you. How you doing? Ready for some Sony Open?
Yeah, why not spend a couple weeks in Hawaii, right? Yeah, looking forward to it. We had a near miss, as you guys know, last week. Cam was able to cash the first-round leader bet was Sahith Theegala, and boy, he came up one lipped putt out short of making it to a playoff there with Chris Kirk. But hats off to Kirk. And now we head over to the Sony YLA Country Club, which is a totally different course. You had this massive property at Kapalua, and now we go from a par 73 to a par 70, a short, flat, tight, narrow course. And Chris Kirk is really the type of player that should win there. He might go back-to-back, guys.
It's a good call.
Rare that players do go back-to-back. But as you stated, why not? He's feeling it. We've seen players win in bunches, don't they, Cam? There's always going to be a player every year that's going to win a couple of tournaments in a month, going to win 2 out of 4 or whatnot. Maybe Kirk is that guy. We have an expanded field this week. Kirk checks in at 25-1 this week. Ludwig Aberg is actually the favorite at 16-1 with Fitzpatrick at 18-1. Hatton 18-1. Henley is 20-1. So who are you looking at this week, Brady?
You know what, guys? I spoke with some bookmakers earlier today, and they would love for Aberg, Hatton, or Fitzpatrick to win. Not a whole lot of action on the favorites right now, and they're going a little bit deeper down the board are the players, including myself, to Brian Harmon. I grabbed him at 22-1, along with Russell Henley at 20-1. And guys, I'm sure you and Cam might go through all the stats and whatnot later on. I don't want to bore you with that, but I'll tell you, I looked at 4 correlated courses that are really strong. It's like the same guys play well at the Sony, Colonial, Harbor Town, Sea Island, and Mayakoba. And every one of my guys is like either won there or finished top 5, a number of top 20s, top 10, you name it. Henley has won at Mayakoba. He's won the Sony before. Harmon has finished second at Mayakoba, second at Sea Island. I got him at 22. I took Brendan Todd at 45. He's won at Mayakoba. He's finished top 20 here at the Sony a number of times. At 50-1, I took Andrew Putnam. And also at 50-1, I took Adam Svensson. Svensson was a guy I hit at 150-1 at the RSM Classic a couple years ago. He's finished 7th at the Sony here in that same year of 2022. And then finally, my longest bomb. I've seen this price come down. I saw 75-1 here at Circa, but I got him at 95, and that's the Argentinian Emiliano Grillo, who is your defending champion at Colonial. So for me, it's all tied into those courses that are very similar here. You know, be able to work the ball in both directions, shorter courses, shorter plotter, accurate ball striker type guys fit the mold, and that's who I went with this week.
From a trend standpoint, guys, Henley just checks all the boxes, as you just stated. Not only just won here before, but he's been consistent. Lost in a playoff before, plays well here all the time, and just smoking hot right now, guys. You know what's amazing? He's got 13 top 20s in his last 16 entries.
Wow.
It's like almost like impossible to do. Like, I don't know. Like,
very
seriously.
solid.
He's
That's a
just
poor
consistent.
man's Scotty Scheffler right there.
Top 20, 13 out of 16 tournaments in a row. That's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah,
Another thing that Brady did, Gabe, if you're not noticing, I'm noticing what you're up to, Cannon. Your first guy, Georgia Bulldog. Your second
There
guy,
you go.
Georgia
Yeah.
Bulldog. Your third guy,
Third
Georgia
guy,
Bulldog.
yeah.
And who won last week? Chris Kirk, Georgia Bulldog. I don't know if you did it on purpose. And Putnam's a Pepperdine wave, Gabe. But anyway, 3 Bulldogs and a wave for Brady's picks. And let's talk about another thing that you brought up. Brendan Todd is a guy that has won in bunches before. He went back-to-back before and then won like 3 tournaments in 4 weeks. So interesting, Brady. Your top 3 guns are all Georgia players. Very interesting.
Yeah, I noticed that after the fact. And there's a lot of it that I think makes sense. Why Chris Kirk played well last week, why he plays well at the Sony, why he plays well at the RSM. Bermuda grass putting surfaces. That's what they grew up on playing for Georgia. And in the case of Chris Kirk, he grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. So he's been playing on Bermuda grass greens all his life. And these guys get a feel for that type of thing, and they can get hot with a flat stick in a hurry.
All right. So looking at the numbers here, you talked about Christian Kirk here at 25-1, won last week. I've got a guy that catches my eye that just sort of jumped off. And it's funny because I knew the Henley numbers and I knew the Henley success here. And it's not a bad number, but there's a guy that I like here at 25-1, the crazy Canuck, Corey Connors at 25-1. I think he's worth a play. Those are the 2 dudes that I'd be taking here, Henley and Corey Connors.
I think both of them, Gabe, if you can find a bet, I think Corey Connors is a great top 10 bet at crazy odds. A top 20 bet you're still getting. Let's see, I bet him top 20. I think it's plus 240 for a top 20. That's an incredible price for a guy that hits it damn straight. This is a perfect track for Corey Connors. This is exactly what he needs. It's always been about the flat stick with him. Don't worry about it. Nice and short. He'll pummel it down the fairway every single time. He's like a robot. That guy doesn't miss fairways. And then all he's got to do is hit some putts. But I like the pick of Corey Connors a lot, Gabe. Definitely top 20 material at a nice price.
I agree with Cam, Gabe. I agree. I think a top 10, top 20 probably even feel even stronger about. Top 20, I think that's a great insurance policy there. Give yourself the extra 10 spots. It's probably still a decent price. The guy's been here 5 times. He's never missed a cut. And his last 4 trips to the Sony, 12th, 11th, 3rd, and 12th. He's a machine inside the top 15.
Plus 180 I got Brady for top 20 for Connors, Gabe. I like that pick a lot. It's a good
solid
price.
Yeah, that's why I like him. That's why I like Corey Connors. But as you stated, it happens. Listen, it's hard to win on the tour. It's hard for everybody. But you notice the common theme, the Canadian dudes are really steady, but they're more top 20 machines. They're more, you know what I mean? They're going to linger. They're going to hang around. They have a hard time finishing it off. And we've seen this with Corey Connors before. What about Harris English? He's another trendy player this week.
And a Georgia Bulldog.
There you go.
Can you believe this? Is
keeping that going. He was pretty decent last week. Right. He was pretty decent last week at Kapalua, and he's played well at Kapalua before. He didn't make my card this week. He didn't really pop in the stats, but I'll tell you one thing. If you're going to make a play here for the Sony Open, you probably want to pick a guy that played last week at the Sentry. 8 out of the last 10 winners of the Sony Open played the week before at Kapalua, and 17 out of the last 25. all 6 of my guys played last week at Kapalua, and Corey Connors and Harris English both did too, Gabe. So, hey, I can't argue from that angle.
Yeah, it
Well, it's
makes a
very
lot of
smart.
sense, actually, against guys that are playing their first tournament of the year, right?
Yep.
And
Right.
I talked about it. We talked about it last week, too, liking guys that have been playing on the DP tour, that have been playing in Europe a bit as well. All right, so we'll get into the NFL on the other side of the NFL playoffs. We can tell you the Atlanta Hawks have beaten the Philadelphia 76ers 139-132. Wild game in the ATL tonight. Raptors and Clippers coming up from the crib.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't
favorite.
care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about 2 franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, we're kicking it with Cam Stewart and Brady Cannon. I am Gabriel Morency. This is Sports Rage. We're still trying to figure out what happened with the audio to start the program. It's either act of God, unknown act, or what I think is superhuman, supernatural power ghosts.
I like that.
Weird stuff happens. So, I think, you know what I mean? I think basically that's my, I'm dead serious. That's my explanation. Like me and Pat Foster, he's in Master Control in New York. We're talking about it. He goes, I don't know. Just one of those random weird things that happen. I said, I don't know. I think maybe a ghost came in and did something just to mess with us, just to have some fun. Just have some fun. I'm not having fun right now. God, there's 1 minute and 6 seconds left. It's 3-1 for Minnesota. These teams don't have names. It's just Minnesota. They just use their city names in the PWHL. They should have come up with names, Cam. Like, just give us some damn names. Like, it's not that hard.
No, like anything in
Toronto
Minnesota.
Tornado. I don't know. Come up with something. Like,
hell, it probably used
Brady,
in the old days.
It's like the new WNBA. It's a women's pro hockey league. Bro, it started off 5-0 to the under 5.5. All right? Like, we're on top of everything, Brady. The books caught up and started making it 4.5. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, 4.5 plus 120. It's 3-1 with 106 left. I played the under. And the net is empty, though. The net is empty.
Sweatbox, indeed.
Oh, she just
What about Minnesota Mountain Lions? Something, anything. There's a lot of links in Mountain Lions.
People would have complained. They're women's teams. Well, that's this, that's that. They would have complained about everything.
This is the league that doesn't have statistics on their website. Maybe get a team name, and then we'll start talking about what's going on here. Okay? There you go. It's like, wow. Unbelievable.
But so anyways, I'm stressing this out. There's 50 seconds left in this game right now. Brady Cannon kick it with us. That's why my favorite team in netball in Australia, the Melbourne Vixens. Great name for a women's sports team.
Very nice.
If you did that, though, in North America, people would bitch. Oh,
yeah.
You can't call that sexist. Vixens.
Well, you can't call them that either.
It sounds great.
No, that's the name of their team. And they are hot. That's the name of their team, the Melbourne Vixens. They're the Vixens.
That's
awesome. I love it.
Yeah, everyone needs to shut up. Just appreciate a good name. Exactly. What's going on here?
People would snap the Boston Barbies. People would be like, what the hell?
Exactly. You're right. They would snap.
Boston Betties.
Right, so,
yeah.
So, that wouldn't go over well, Brady. No, that wouldn't be good. So that's worse. No. There's like 19 seconds left. I might actually win this, but I don't want to get my hopes up. I think I might. There's 10 seconds left. Okay.
Does the clock
NFL
tick any
football.
slower in any sport than hockey? It just seems like those guys race around the ice so fast, and like 3 seconds have gone off the clock.
Yes, it stays under 4.5, barely.
WinningstheUnder.com.
This league's underleague city. Wow, unreal.
The goalie on Minnesota's good. She made like 1 million saves. Toronto, we're all over them tonight. Okay, NFL football. Let's do this thing, Seth. I'm going to start backwards instead of going first. Monday Night Football, Brady. I'm trying to talk myself into the Bucs, but God, their offense is bad. But Philly's got problems. Any opinion on that one? It's up to 3 right now in Monday Night Football.
Yeah, neither of these teams are very good. I have the Buccaneers as a point below average, and I have Philadelphia about 1.5 above average. My power ratings come to Philadelphia -2, which was the opening number. And then when I run the stats, it comes to Philadelphia -1.5. You look at the strength of schedule. That's a big difference between these two teams. The Philadelphia Eagles, they've played the Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Giants, the Cardinals. Who have the Buccaneers played lately? Well, they played the Panthers twice, the Falcons, the Packers, the Jaguars, and the Saints. So a big difference there. You've got injuries, especially on the Philadelphia side. You've got an especially lousy defense on the Philadelphia side. They've been running the ball well, but now they're going to face a team that's pretty stout against the run in Tampa Bay. I think Baker Mayfield, if he's healthy enough, that's what worries me, because we've seen this line move towards the Eagles, and that baffles me because they're not very good. But if Mayfield is healthy, he ought to be able to throw the ball to Mike Evans all day long against this Philadelphia defense. I wouldn't be surprised with either team that comes out the winner here, but I don't think either team's going to do it by margin. So I used Tampa Bay in a 10-point teaser. I didn't even go the 6-point route. That wasn't comfortable enough. I went all the way to +13 with Tampa Bay. I took your Bills, Gabe, down to a pick'em, and then the other leg of that 10-pointer, the Houston Texans, up to +12.5.
Interesting. So a 10-point teaser with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up to 13, Texans up to 13, and the Buffalo Bills a pick'em. You're also playing a 6-point teaser with the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans. So it sounds like you feel like this Texans-Browns game is going to be close and or the Texans are on the right side of it, and you like the Dallas Cowboys to win the football game.
You're exactly right about the Texans. I think it's going to be close, and the Texans could be the outright winner. If you look at the Cleveland Browns, you guys know they're a much different team on the road than they are at home. They have played 3 out of their last 4 games at home, rather. 3 out of their last 4 games at home. I don't count Week 18. The one game they played on the road was against the Houston Texans, who had Case Keenum at quarterback and not C.J. Stroud. So I think if you look at these last 4 or 5 games outside of Week 18 for the Cleveland Browns, it's kind of inflated. Now, Joe Flacco, yeah, he has elevated that offense, surely. But again, this team has not been the same team on the road, and now they go to a team where the Texans have a little bit of same-season revenge. They've got their guy back in the lineup. I actually made the Texans a 1-point favorite in this game, but I don't want to take 2.5. That's not a good number to take. So, yeah, I teased them up to 8.5. As I mentioned, teased them up to 12.5. I think you're looking at a one-possession. I think this game could be decided by less than a field goal. And again, I think either team could win a real tight one here. And you mentioned Dallas. I think people are falling too far in love with the Green Bay Packers. This team is not that good. Jordan Love has had a great, improvement that we've seen over the course of the season. Matt LaFleur is still a great coach, but this team lost to the Giants. This team lost to the Buccaneers. They barely held on against the Panthers. They barely held on against the Packers. They have got they stepped on, Jaron Hall in Minnesota. What kind of accomplishment is that? And I think it's things like that also elevate their numbers. Dallas is you talk about Cleveland. Dallas is a completely different team at home. Probably the best home team in the NFL this year. I tease this one down just to feel safe about it. You don't like to lay 7.5, but that's the way I would go if I had to. I think this one could get out of hand against this Dallas offense against the Green Bay defense. I think they could win by 2 touchdowns.
Interesting. A lot of people that we've spoken to are buying into the Packer hype this week, as you stated. There are a lot of people that are doing it. For me, the thing that catches my eye the most about that game is the over, because I think Dallas are going to be able to move the ball, and I think Green Bay will be able to, they'll be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing the ball. I do think the total is very attainable. The Miami Dolphins. So I think the Dolphins will be a little healthier this week. Like last week, it was, they're playing for the division, but they also knew they were in the playoffs no matter what. So I wouldn't be surprised if the needle comes out, Sid Vicious style. And there's a lot of cortisone shots going on there, right? Going into this. I'm just saying, people are
I like that.
Yeah, you're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row.
I know,
That's the playoffs.
Phrase right there. That's great.
Oh, that's a good one.
I've used Courtney Love a couple of times over the years. I don't pick on Courtney Love.
Sid Vicious.
There's going to be more needles than Sid and Nancy's hotel room. All right, how's that?
That's a lot of needles. That's a lot of needles.
Get the needles out, guys. We got a lot of injuries, and it's like just crank it up and get out there,
needles.
Right? They tell them, don't worry, you won't feel it till tomorrow. Right?
Do they have anything for cold temperatures? Do they have something they can shoot them up? Yeah, I think.
Well, that's the thing, Brady. 0-10, bro. 0-10.
Yeah.
The last 10 games the Dolphins have played when the temperature is 40 degrees or less, they're 0-10. They've lost by an average of 17 points. The modern era, Tua is 0-4 when it's 45 degrees or lower, and it's going to be way lower than even 40, Brady.
Right, absolutely. About 40 degrees lower than 40. He's never played a playoff game either, has Tua. And now, of course, Bradley Chubb is gone. Van Ginkel's gone. The offensive line is banged up. Xavier Howard is banged up. Jalen Waddle, I don't think he's 100%. Raheem Mostert, I think he's going to play, but he's not 100%. I don't want to lay the wood here. Now, we should also be laying the wood. If we think the favorite is going to win the game, it's about 88% of the time in the wild card round that whoever wins the game covers the spread, meaning underdogs either win outright or the favorites cover the number. So the Buffalo Bills, what have you, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cowboys, history will tell us that they cover these numbers. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kansas City did. I just think the weather's too much. I think the injuries are too much. I have Kansas City as a better team. I give them extra home field advantage because it's a tough place to play and for the weather. And here's another little nugget for you that I thought of earlier this week. We all know about Andy Reid off of a bye, right? Well, no, they're not off of a bye, but yeah, they kind of are. That was a glorified walkthrough practice against the Chargers. Nobody played. They didn't game plan too hard for that game. That was a lot like a bye week. And Andy Reid has certainly been on the playoffs, I imagine. So, that's another little nugget to add to your Chiefs argument. I played a money line parlay with the Chiefs and the Cowboys as well.
Quickly, Brady, we got 15, 20 seconds. Lions-Rams. That's a fun one on Sunday night. What's your opinion?
Great game, guys. I can't wait for it. I lean to the under and the Rams, but I like the Lions to win the game. I'd take the Rams if I could get 3 and a hook.
You like the Lions to win the game.
3-point spread.
On their home field. This is Sports Rage.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. So, 3-1 final. Minnesota beats Toronto in the PWHL. Very good hockey. I've been watching these games, and I bet on a lot of stuff. Like, I bet on, Korean basketball and Filipino basketball, Australian basketball, and all kinds of soccer leagues. And I'll watch for a couple of minutes sometimes, and I'll be like, God, this is bad. And I'll just I'm going to check back in 20 minutes and see what the score is type of deal. I was watching the women's game tonight. It came on, and I was watching an NHL game, and a good one. Montreal and Philly was an entertaining game. And I was like, oh, yeah, the women's game is starting now, and I'm betting on it. So I tuned in. Next thing I knew, man, I was 2 periods in at intermission. I'm like, wow, this just sort of flew by. It's good hockey. They don't have a lot of teams. I'll tell you what it is. It's basically Team Canada and Team USA's Olympic teams freaking playing in a league against each other.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of really, 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 really good players. Like, there's some really, like, Nurse is amazing. The girl on, Sarah Nurse on Toronto. Some really fun players. So a game just went off the board. The Toronto Raptors. I took the Raptors plus 12. Here, Cam, are you on the Raptors plus the points
Yes,
here
I
against
am.
the Clippers?
I am on the Raptors plus 12. I know Siakam's out. I think it's too many points. Scotty Barnes is going to probably light it up again like last night, Gabe. I don't know who the secondary scorer is going to be, but it's too many points for me. Hopefully, after the coach ripped the refs last night, they get some calls and cover a big number.
Oh, they're never going to get calls. Now they're going to get he's going to get fined,
It's
and
gonna be
they're
the
not going to
opposite.
get any
You're
calls.
right. Screw the
They're not gonna
Raptors.
get any
They're
calls.
never going to get anything. The NBA's like, nah. You're right.
4-3 early. So yeah, I took the Raptors plus the points, and I took Scotty Barnes over 19.5 points scored. And for the record, Kawhi Leonard got paid again today. We'll get into that after. Coach James Young's got a video that we're going to play a little bit. Look at this. He was going off about it earlier today. We'll get into that after. But Kawhi gets another $153 million from the Clip Show. So let's bring in Paul Bovey right now, the $152 million man. Kawhi's only $1 million richer than Paul. What's up, Paul? You're doing well, but you wish. I wish too. Not that well.
I do. It was an up and down week. Look, we won a few, we lost a few. We snuck that national championship game under in the first half. I don't know how that happened.
I thought of you, bro, at 27.
That was a 27. I was like, yeah, Bobby. Yes. That was great.
I tell you, I was.
Did you give up on it? Like, did you give when it was 14-3? Right, you're like, oh, I'm done. I'm done. Like,
look, I looked at the live number. It was 36, and I said, okay, onward. I had a few props in the game. A few worked, a few didn't work. But I just said, all right, let's lean on these props. One of them, which was Penix over, and that didn't work, but a couple of them did. So, unfortunately, the game was profitable. But I have to tell you, we paid for that in sweat as far as that under in the first half, which I never thought would come through.
You're lucky Michigan started overthinking things and stopped running the ball. You know what it was? They had a script, and they stuck to it. Right? So, right? And it was like, okay, guys, listen, the first 20 plays worked so well. Why don't we just, throw out, let's not go to play 21 and 22. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what happened. They had basically had the first half scripted, and they were like, okay, we're going to start throwing the ball now and drive 4 now. And they did. They were stubborn about it, right? And it turned out it was like, well, it was by design, and that, it was sort of a plan, and they stuck with it. Ended up working. But, wow, big bombshell. Nick Saban just retired a couple hours ago, Paul. And, of course, Pete Carroll was, I don't know, fired the right word, but kind of asked to leave. Kind of, and, fired wasn't the right, fired. I guess it is the right word. I mean, either way, they got to pay him. So it's a big day in football today. But let's get to the games, Paul. Let's start off with Cleveland and Houston. What do you think about this game? Flacco versus C.J. Stroud at H-Town.
Obviously it's a limited schedule, and I am very opinionated on a couple games. This happens not to be one of them, but I'll tell you what I will go for in this game, and it's a prop. Flacco, you got to give him credit for what he's done, and we went into this before, and I like Joe Flacco. He's accomplished quite a bit in the NFL, namely that Super Bowl. And, you got to give him props for the comeback here. But he's reckless with the football, and I'll go over 1/2 of an interception, probably have to lay $1.45. And I think that will happen, particularly since he's on the road. So at this point, I look for a close game. I think Cleveland's a little overhyped on defense. I think they could be had. You got to give it to C.J. Stroud. He's only thrown 5 interceptions this year, but that secondary of Houston at times can be dented. It has been along the way on several occasions. So I could see Flacco having some success, getting a little overconfident, and throwing an INT. So I look to these games. I look for props if I can't find a side or a total, and this is one of them where if I'm not going to take a side or a total, which I probably won't, I may lean on Houston with a teaser, get over the hump, get over the 7, get over the 3, cross those key numbers, and maybe find another dance partner with them. But that's the way I'm going to play the game.
Part of me feels like Schwartz is going to be able to come up with a couple of things that's going to confuse C.J. Stroud throughout the afternoon. But at the same point in time, this total feels light at 44.5. These teams played a couple of weeks ago, and it was with Case Keenum, and they got into the high 50s, right? What was off the top of my head? It was like 36-23 or something like that. I think that's what it was. And you know what I mean? You got indoors, not outdoors. Same stadium where we just played a national championship game, actually. So weather is not a factor here. 44.5, it's not a ton of points. Like 24-21 gets you there. And it wouldn't shock me if this ended up being in that range, this game. So that's something that's intriguing to me at 44.5. This will be a long field goal prop game, guys. It's one of my favorite props, Paul. Long field goal over-under. This is indoors. You're going to have teams, especially in the playoffs. Coaches like these field goals. They're not going to be going for it as much. I'll be playing a long field goal prop in this one. I will not be playing a long field goal prop in the frigid conditions of Arrowhead Stadium on Saturday night, though, because that ball is going to be a freaking ice block. So they ain't going to be kicking long field goals in this one. What do you think about Saturday night, Paul? Miami Dolphins are now getting 4.5 points. The total is also 44 in this game.
I would have figured the total to have come down by now. Look, Tua, he's been, in my eyes, pretty bad. You look at that Baltimore game, he couldn't even make any headway in a blowout with the Ravens having Stevens out as well as Kyle Hamilton. Those 23 passes defended combined. He wasn't much better against Buffalo, and that was at home. I'm not impressed with what he's getting done. And these are frigid conditions, and Kansas City is a tough place to play. So I would lean to the under here. It seems like an obvious call. I actually played it at 45. I bought it up from 44.5 to 45, and I will occasionally do that on a total when I'm playing with 45 or 51. These are key numbers and totals, and I bought it to 45 and went to the low side. And I don't see Miami doing too much here. If they're going to win this game, their path is to keep it low scoring, in my opinion. Sure, Kansas City has been on offense at times very challenged, particularly at the receiver position where there's been a plethora of drops along the way and throughout the season. But I think things are starting to come around for them, and it's playoff time. And guys, the best of the best step up during the playoffs, so you got to give it to Patrick Mahomes. And I think their running game will get some traction here, and I'm looking for Kansas City to win the game, probably 4 to 7 point margin of victory, and that's where I'd go and probably lean to the low side.
That's the thing. Even though Kansas City aren't as explosive as they have been in past years, they're still dangerous in a one-game situation. And something you just said, Paul, I agree with. Like, Rice is a good player. Like, they're going to make plays when they have to in a one-game situation. Kelsey is sort of getting to the end of the road, but you know he still has a couple of big bangs and big plays left in him as well, especially at home. You get him on the road, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Mahomes has never played a road playoff game before, which is pretty crazy. So Pittsburgh and Buffalo, not quite as cold. It's not going to be quite as cold, but still pretty freaking cold by football standards, by modern era. I mean, nothing's cold anymore, and it's not terrible. It's going to be 23 degrees in Buffalo. But one thing that catches my eye about this game a lot with the weather is actually the wind. right? 23-mile-an-hour winds. Those are some serious gusts. What's your opinion on the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bill game, Paul?
So let me just bring something out, which I'm sure you've thought of. These are the kinds of games where you have these frigid conditions, and the football, as you say, is like a rock, and you get these crosswinds, 23 miles an hour. Field goals tend to be scarce. So sometimes you look towards no score in the first 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, and that's a pretty good way to play it, because the odds of a field goal occurring are minimized, plus teams tend to shy away from kicking longer field goals and opt for the punt. So that's one thing I will be looking at this weekend, and I think it's something you could look for in this Buffalo game. But as far as the spread goes, this is just too rich.
Mason Rudolph is your guy, man. That's
I was going to say, look, the Mason Rudolph conversation has been going on for the past several years. And one thing I did say on your show, I think it was around 3 years ago or maybe 4, and I was wrong. I said Mitch Trubisky would be out of the league by now. Okay, he's not out of the league, but he's certainly relegated at this point to, at best, a second-string quarterback. I think he's been given enough chances to – we all know he'll not
never
the
be
guy.
a starter again. I will agree with that.
He's not going to lead a team to the promised land. Now, Mason Rudolph, obviously, he's got some upside here, and nobody could argue with what he's gotten accomplished. Will he be able to sustain it? I don't know, but it leads me into this game. I just think it's too many points. The Steelers have been a much better team under his guidance, no question about it. They haven't been turning the ball over. They've been getting it done. They've been getting their receivers involved. And when you look at Buffalo, beyond this Miami game, and this was a game they struggled for a while, they got a punt return, obviously, which kind of gave them some separation. But you look back, they struggled with New England. They had a turnover edge. Barely got by. They barely got by Easton Stick and the Chargers. So how much respect can you give this team by affording them a 10-point favorites role? I think it's too much.
I could buy in more to the Steelers. I agree with what you said. Buffalo's offense, they've just been doing enough to get by. But no TJ Watt is devastating for the Pittsburgh team.
Devastating.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev. Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6th and the 7th seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. We've got a lower scoring game going on in the first quarter here, which doesn't bother me. I didn't bet on the total, but it's 24-19 right now with 2:22 left. The Clippers are up. I swear to God, the Raptors have to be the worst team in the league in the first quarter. Like, they are never, ever, ever like winning after the first quarter play. And it's funny. I don't like betting against them, but I started to do it. I was like, whatever, dude. They never win the first quarter. So I started to do it. And, of course, the times I do it, the Raptors play well in the first quarter. So I just sort of was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to ignore it. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting 10 points. T.J. Watt is out, guys. And, you know, if you think, like, okay, he's just one guy, what kind of an impact that he has in not being there really is crazy what kind of an impact that T.J. Watt has on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure you've heard, many shows have talked about it, that they played 11 games without T.J. Watt over the years. They're 1-10 straight up. But the thing that really catches my eye about this, and I've known about T.J. Watt and how important he is, but what's really crazy about it is the difference in points that they give up. When T.J. Watt plays, they give up 19.8 points per game. When T.J. Watt doesn't play, they give up 26.3 points per game. It's like basically a touchdown difference with him on the field. Going to be very tough against Buffalo, but I hear what you're saying, Paul. Listen, I think Buffalo are going to win this game like 27-10. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 27-17. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 27-20. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 2010. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 2017, right? The Bills are an unpredictable team who... Don't forget, guys, the Bills have been under so much pressure over the years, and they've looked so good doing it, they don't care anymore, right? They don't care. Like, they don't care if they win 3-0, right? Like, they're like, put it this way. It's like, yeah, dude, we've scored 41 points in playoff games and lost. We've been stars and lost. Let's just win the damn game. So that's one thing about you got to be careful with Buffalo laying 10 points. More with Paul and Cam on the other side.